my channel, Virtuous Mountain Woman channel. Welcome. As you can see, we're here enjoying the wonderful sunny day on in the rural areas of British Columbia. Well, the reason why I'm doing this discussion again is because the last time I put out this video, this live feed, I had 724 people come to have a look. So I'm thinking if 724 people came to have a look, that people must be really interested in the whole thing of a woman of color, a black woman living here in a rural setting. You can see behind me here is the garden that we're growing potatoes there. So we're growing potatoes. We also are growing zucchinis or courgettes, so they'll be called in other countries. We're growing peonies. You can see at the front there the canoe. We go out canoeing some days. We've been canoeing this past week. So this live debate is like, let's answer some of the real question is, can a woman of color really survive living in these mountainous areas? This is North America, this is Canada. So we prefer just to say Canada for the time being. So I'm in Western Canada, living here remotely. So remotely means that we're 3,500 feet above sea level. And I moved here. I moved here with my husband, actually. We moved here 8 years ago. There was nothing here when we moved. There was just virgin land. There was nothing on there, no sewer system, no septic. Really a well that's been here on it for maybe 30 years, set up when the land was cut into the 20 acres. So we're on 20 acres. No services, no house. So we had to design and set up the house, connected with an architect to do the design. And then we decided to use Western Canadian hemlock. So the kit is hemlock, and the house, we were told, had to be, the footings had to be 10 feet rather than 6 or 7 because of the mountain at the back, and a house like this would never been made before. So first stop is living in a trailer. So what was that like? We lived in a trailer for 4 winters actually, because the house didn't come together and the building didn't come together as fast as we thought it was going to come. So how did I survive the winter? People would think, well, how could you survive in the winter in a trailer? Well, the trailer's winterized for a start. So, and there was also a small bathroom, cooking facilities inside on propane, and also propane heated, a small central heating system within the trailer. And we had a good sized fridge with a small freezer. But what we did for the freezer is that we actually put a freezer outside. We built a shack onto the trailer. It was 24-foot trailer. So we built a shack on that with we could put a stove. If you pop over to my other channel, you'll see in the video entitled "How Can Anyone Live Like This?" And you can see that we put a trailer on, the shack on the trailer, and a wood burning stove. So open the window of the trailer so that the heating could get through if it got minus 32. So we also had built a deck off the trailer and a awning built with wood, so that would have shelter in front before going into the trailer. So, does it make any difference that I'm a woman of color, or want to say a black woman living in the remote settings initially without any services? Well, I've got to be totally honest. I mean, I was born in the Caribbean. So in the Caribbean, I was raised in what people would call the bush. So we had the old pit toilets. We had to go on a horse or a donkey to school. So I was born in a remote area. So I wasn't born in a city. It's only that when I went to Europe, I lived in a city. So I'd become acclimatized to living in a city in a more damp area, but lots of cold snow. So I'm used to snow. It wasn't you. So then how did I get through? Want to ask if anyone else is on the feed, if they want to talk, if they've lived in remote settings and what it was like for them. I think one of the problems is, it's not a problem, but in Western countries, there's most people of color or black people tend to live in large cities or large conurbations. So it's the percentage of people of color or black people in the rural setting is very much lower. So one of the things people say is, how did you survive that being in a minority? Well, the thing is, has anyone experienced this themselves? Any comments? Well, being in a minority has never been a problem for me, because I have a very strong sense of self, and I go where I want to go. So, and I love the countryside. I love the greenery. I love seeing the wild animals. I of course I make sure that I'm safe, but I do like it. I enjoy it. If you look at my other videos, if you care to look at them or share your own experiences, I love looking at the wild mushrooms. I like picking the berries, the safe berries, which you can use for different medicinal purpose. The Husham berry, or the buffalo berry, as they're called in Eastern Canada. I love looking at the wild plants. There's the wild red clover, which I've just found out has medicinal benefits. And the other plant, which if you see in my other videos, that I'm keeping a close eye on at the moment, is the burdock. So I love looking at the burdock, and I've been showing on the videos the burdock growing from the very large leaf, just the very foundation, and right now they're flowering. And I'm looking at the time of the season when I'll be picking the leaves to be washing them and boiling them, or also I'll be putting them in the blender, because they have medicinal properties. So when we say can you cope in this environment, it's not just about coping. It's about, I feel very much a part of the environment. I enjoy being in the environment. And one of the things that people often assume is that a lot of the planning in the house and planning of how we divide the land and use the land, people have assumed that is due to my interest is because of how I'm driven by my husband. Well, the thing is, the way that we approach it as a team, and my input has been as much equally important as his input, in that we clear maybe 2 acres of the land so that we can build in an area, and then we look at what we eventually want: a garden. We want to be self-sufficient. So it's only this year really that we've really been able to plant potatoes, plant garlic, um, plant the mint, the thyme, and other things that we're going to be using on a regular basis, because for maybe 4 or 5 years most of it has been related to the house building. So how we survive. So it takes about an hour to get to town. To get to the local post office is 10 minutes, but you can't buy your grocery there, right? You collect the mail. But so I have specific times of the week. I do run a business, an office. So sometimes in the week I plan out surviving. I plan, and 2 days a week, because of my business, I'll be in town. But now I've downsized that, so it's normally 1 day a week. So I'm in town so I can collect supplies. And normally we do a Costco shop every 4 months. So you're buying large amount of stuff like toilet rolls, kitchen roll, tins of tomatoes, rice, and we buy potatoes as well from the local farm store. We have a local farm store, which is great. And we buy lots of stuff. We try to buy only BC grown as much as possible, so that we're not buying anything that's not within 100 kilometers, as it were, or 20 kilometers of where we are, so that we like to support local. And we usually buy lamb, half a lamb each year when it's time for that slaughter time. And that's we use the freezer, so that we're dividing the food very carefully. I'll show you the freezer another time. So that's how surviving is all about planning, knowing what you use, your resources that you use, and how much of those resources you manage. And I think life goes on day to day. We have life go on day to day, but one of the big things that we have to do, and how as a black woman are you surviving in the remote rural, is that we manage water. So water management is very, very important. So managing water, how do we go about that? Well, we have a well, and you can drop on and see one of my other videos on one other channel, a Black Woman Mountain Living. You see that we have two large cisterns underwater, of water underground, which the well feeds into, so that if the well is getting dry for any reason, we can bring in city water. We try not to do that, but that is our backup for that. So now we're talking about, it really is a dimension we're talking about, not a woman of color, just any woman really. We have to manage the water, and we manage water inside as well, so that when we're washing up dishes, we just don't pour water down the sink. We use a bowl to gather the water, soapy water, then we use another bowl to rinse. So we're not running the tap. The taps aren't just, or faucets aren't just running and running. So that's a really important thing. And in terms of managing how we live, so you've got the water management, you've got food management, and also about how often do we go to town, and calculate, do we really need to go to town? and what are the reasons, and minimize that constantly being in a car or a truck, you know. And then another thing about managing being in the countryside is understanding the the animals that walk through the property. You know, bears walk through. We've not seen cougar, but we're aware that they're there. But they're very sneaky cougars. So the thing is to be very vigilant when you're walking. When I'm walking around the land, you know, I'm not looking around and being scared or that, but you know, being having a sense of awareness of the environment that you're in. And you know, the other thing is, if you notice in another video, which I'll be putting out at another time, is that in terms of managing waste, you won't see, apart from when we're clearing around the house, because we're clearing around the house at the moment and moving things around, but we don't have food waste outside. We have a food waste area in the basement area, which is covered, and then all the garbage or rubbish is taken down into a big depot down in the area, which is serviced by the district. So there's no garbage or food waste around the land. And then having a sense of tidiness around the property. You know, there's no sharp things just hanging around where animals can walk through and damage or hurt themselves. So you've got a responsibility when you live rurally, not only to yourselves, but also to the wildlife that comes through as well. Making sure that if you've been fishing and stuff like that, when you come back, all your fishing gear and everything is tidied and put away carefully where it should be. And then the other thing that people would often say is that do you feel a sense of isolation because there are not many people in this area of Canada, or often in North America, in our other countries. Please join in and make some comments. You're welcome to do that. For when you're a person of color, a woman of color, do you feel isolated? Well, it's a very complex thing or word, is that whole thing of isolation, because I think I prefer to use the word solitude. And I find, and my husband mentioned this before when we have our discussions, solitude is often very welcome company. For me, I don't feel lonely, because being out here, there's a level of connection with so much. Like, you see the birds come to feed, you see the squirrels come to feed, you aware that there might be a bear out there. Not that you should be that you just take as a laissez-faire attitude towards the bear, but you're in company. But it may not be human company, but you are in company, and you're in an environment. You know, until you live like this, you understand that the trees are there. The trees are there. The trees have their own way of interacting. You know, the trees, by description, you know, the trees, you know, the silver birch tree, the interest in seeing the coppices and how they in spring they are, and then as the summer gets there, how they're the change of color, and then you've got the aspen, trees, and the aspen leads you into another world of understanding of nature, because the you know the as they grow, the leaves sort of shimmer, and see you've got that beautiful shimmering and slightly, thing of the like a whispering of the wind in between that. And then we have the spruce. And the spruce, we used to have a lot of spruce when we first came up here, but there's not as much spruce anymore. So you begin to get an understanding of the typography of the land, of what that we're living in. And then there's a relationship, there's relating to the environment. So while it's not neighbors and people looking in and touching curtains, you have neighbors. You have the land, and you have the different types of berries that grow, and different times of the year. And you have the mushrooms that come out. There's mushrooms now, and they're so different from the mushrooms that will come out in the fall, and because you're getting more of the damper area, and the what more mushrooms or fungi is growing on the land, and they have their interests. So you've gone down another realm here of thinking. So the whole thing of, are you surviving? How are you living? Are you isolated? Well, not really. Because the other thing is, when you have solitude makes you begin to interact with your own self in a different way. There's an inner peace, inner calm, and it's okay not to have human beings around all the time. And yet we love human beings. I love human beings. I love interacting. And it would be very sort of misleading to say that there's never a hankering or a seeking out human connections, because we're human beings, so we seek connections. And when I first came into this area, this is the most remote I have ever lived. Okay, I've lived in the countryside in the UK. I've lived on 34 acres in Canada, and you could see people's houses. Where here you can't see anyone's house from here. From our house, you don't see another house. So I begin to have a sense then, as a woman of colour, and also as a human being, firstly, is that while I do want connection, I want to be a bit more choosy about the connections that I have. I want them to be more meaningful. I mean, is anyone coming into the feed thinking the same thing? Is it about age, or is it about what type of human connection do you want when you live remotely like this? So, any thoughts, any ideas? Anyone wants to mention anything? Okay, so if I go back to saying the type of human connections that I want as a woman of colour, well, I decided that, because you can't see you can see people's houses, but you can't really see people walking around. So you have to sort of begin to mentally think, well, what type of company do I really want? Well, I decided that the company I want my family. I have a son and I have 2 grandsons. So I want that company. I want them to be on the land, come on a regular basis, share our experiences, cook together, eat together, laugh together, talk together. And then what other company do I want? Of course, I want my husband's company. He's good company. We've been together for over 30 years, and in the 30 years that we lived together, we've always lived remotely, apart from 7 months when we came to Canada, which was transitioning, trying to find the right place to live. So to give a lot more thought to the type of company that I want. So to spend more time with myself, talking to myself about what it is I want. And with that came, I remember years ago when I used to go to Baptist church camps when I was a teenager into early womanhood. There was a Gaelic poem that I used to hear and always used to say together, and it stuck with me. And what I used to do is, as I drove by the properties along, and I couldn't see anyone, or odd time people would come and say hello, but not really, not many people. This is Gaelic saying. It says, "Sweet peace of the rolling seas to you, sweet peace of the quiet earth to you," and I would say that into the houses or to wherever they are. So the people will be attracted to me, and I'll be attracted to people. Well, sweet peace of the rolling seas to you, sweet peace of the quiet earth to you. So that Gaelic poem, I would speak out into people, into the atmosphere, because I want to attract a certain type of people to me, and not just respond out of loneliness to diminish myself so that people can become friends with me. Because in the rural life, there's a lot of things and skills as a black woman that I don't have those skills. And I have to, well, the word have to is a very strong word. It would be meaningful for me to learn those skills, especially this remote. So I would want people that towards me who are friendly towards me, maybe curious about me, but not have negative views of me because of the color of my skin. I don't mind a curiosity. Natural curiosity is fine, but have hateful or harmful stereotypes towards me, that's not ever any good to me. I stand apart from that. But people want to embrace with me and share with me, and I share with them. So yes, I want friendships, and I'm a woman of a Christian woman. I am a born again of, and I have a deep faith. Well, deep faith. Jesus Himself placed His faith in me. I don't have a deep faith. I've been gifted faith by God. So I want people that would support my faith, share my faith, and I also share and support their faith. And if people don't share my faith, still be nice and be kind and have genuine friendships across different cultures, across different faiths. So there's that part of me which desires connections, but I'm not running out of my way to go and diminish myself in any way so that someone can be my friend. But so having that attitude, it took maybe, I would say, being honest, we didn't really make any friends in this community. So if you're a black person or a person of color, as a woman moving into these areas, I'm not saying everywhere is the same, but even in the deep of winter here, no, when we first came and we lived in a trailer, the neighbor didn't even offer us a bowl of soup, right? They just wave. So we didn't have any sense of neighborliness. So then I had to look towards my husband, and he had to look towards me. When I first met my husband, he told me that his grandfather said that the best marriages are the marriages where a wife and a husband look towards each other. There's a tunnel in which that you're looking towards each other, and some people, they might say that's scary or whatever, but in this rural setting, this remote setting, where we had no neighbors would be neighborly towards us, or say, this is really, really cold, is there a possibility that you need something on in the trailer that you're living in? No one. Okay, no one. So me and my husband had to draw strength from each other. We had to draw strength from the vision that we had to come and live in this area. So that touches at a key point, is that we have a vision to live remotely and rurally, and we want that lifestyle. So to embrace and be embraced took a while. And then what we did is we went to the local community where there's a group of people meeting at a church. And so we had friends from the city before, even though we lived rurally, but because we moved so far up, and then also when we were here, COVID started. So so that further meant that human interaction was very, apart from me and my husband, was very rare. So it's a good thing that we like each other. We love each other, but we like each other. I like his mind, he likes my mind. I'm very intellectual, he's an intellectual. He likes nature, I like nature. We're political, he likes politics, I like politics. So I'm a bookworm, he's an educated man, he likes books. So there's lots of things that we found, that we common ground, that we had to learn to really connect with as a couple, because we didn't have external. But before the COVID started, we went to this local church community, and we'd met a senior couple who were like quite a lot older than us. But we connected with them. And that's the other thing, is when you're preparing to live a remote and rural life, remember, connectivity is not always about age. It's about how you connect with people. And they were connected, and they were kind. So even though we couldn't see them very much, that's the first time in this neighborhood, in this rural remote setting, that another people had said, here's a plate of food, come and sit with us and eat with us. And they didn't set a timer like, oh, it's 7 o'clock now, you need to go. It was like, we sat and talked into the evening. Whatever they were cooking, they shared with us, and we shared with them. So that's, I hope you can come back for part 2, because we've done 33 minutes so far of this live feed. And so we started that journey of talking and getting to the nitty gritty of what it really has been like to live rurally. It's a pity we have to be stopping now for and finishing this video now, but next week we talked about the loneliness, we talked about the isolation, we've talked about so many different things. But I'm going to go down now into part 2 next week at the same time. And I'm very sorry that I've not, my first one that we had was just something went wrong technically, but hopefully next week we'll continue with this journey, as a black woman, a woman of color, I'm surviving, and not surviving but thriving, and what made me make those choices, and how my life has pulled together in this community. Also because I have a husband too, so I have a partnership, I have child, I have grandchildren, so how are we linking them to this life that we have here. So I will send out the notification quite earlier in the week, so that people can join and participate in this live feed. So thank you very much for joining Virtuous Mountain Woman, and we'll talk a little bit more next week about other activities that we do in collaboration in this land, and the friendships and how they've grown as we've moved along and lived here now 8 years in this community. Thank you. See you next week.